Modern science has been built on a very simple idea called the Copernican Principle for the past 400 years. This is the idea that there is nothing special about where we live in the universe. We are not at the center of the solar system, and our sun is just one normal star among billions. In physics, we call this isotropy. It is the belief that if you look far enough out, the universe should look roughly the same in every direction. There should be no up, no down, and definitely no left or right. This isn't just a philosophy we like. It is the basic math that makes our current model of how the universe works, gravity, the Big Bang, all of it, actually function. If the universe actually has a grain to it, like wood has a grain or a preferred direction, the equations we use to explain gravity start to break down. To test if this is true, scientists look at the cosmic microwave background, or CMB. This is the oldest light in history. It is a baby picture of the universe taken just 380,000 years after the Big Bang. At first glance, the map of ancient light appears as messy static, a mix of hot and cold spots. To scientists, this randomness confirms the early universe was a smooth, well-mixed energy soup. However, when analyzed further using multipole expansion, scientists uncovered something that shouldn't be there: unexpected patterns in the largest structures of the universe. They looked at two specific patterns. One divides the sky into 4 big regions, and the other divides it into 8. According to every rule of physics we have, these two patterns should have nothing to do with each other. They should be pointed at random angles, like two people throwing dice in totally different rooms. But they aren't. They are almost perfectly lined up. Together, they form a straight line across the sky, a cosmic axis. And this is the part that gave this discovery its nickname, the axis of evil. This line doesn't just point to a random spot in deep space. It seems to line up perfectly with our own solar system. It points along the path the sun travels across our sky. The meaning of this is earth-shattering. If the biggest structures in a universe that is 13.8 billion years old are tied to the position of our tiny 4.5 billion-year-old solar system, it means one of two things. Either we are seeing a ghost in the data, a mistake so huge it has tricked our best satellites, or the basic rule of science is wrong. If the axis is real, the universe isn't a smooth, random sea. It has a direction. It has a north. Today, we are going to explore why this discovery has sent modern cosmology into a total crisis. Before we look at the numbers, let's understand the tool scientists use to find these patterns. This tool is that multipole expansion we mentioned. Imagine the ancient light of the universe is like a complex musical chord played on a piano. This tool is how we break that chord down to hear each individual note. The first note is simple. It just shows that one side of the sky is warmer because our galaxy is moving. Scientists delete that part immediately. The next note is the quadrupole. This divides the sky into 4 big patches of hot and cold. After that comes the octupole, which divides the sky into 8 patches. In a universe that started with a random explosion, these notes should be totally separate. There's no reason in our physics for the 4-patch pattern and the 8-patch pattern to match up. They are the result of tiny energy jitters that happen in the first split second of time. Expecting them to point the same way is like expecting two strangers to drop a handful of coins and have them land in the exact same shape on the floor. But in 2005, researchers using the WMAP satellite decided to measure the direction of these two notes. What they found was a statistical impossibility. The axis of the 4-patch pattern and the axis of the 8-patch pattern were almost perfectly locked together. They were stacked on top of each other, pointing at a specific spot in space. A cosmologist named João Maguiho coined the term axis of evil because of how much damage this does to our theories. If the biggest shapes in a universe are aligned, it suggests the universe is not the same in all directions. It implies space has a top and a bottom. This breaks the cosmological principle, which assumes the laws of physics are the same everywhere. The strangeness doesn't stop at the alignment. When researchers drew this axis on a map of our sky, they found it sat exactly on the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the flat plane where Earth orbits the Sun. Furthermore, it seemed to line up with the equinoxes. This creates a massive logic problem. The ancient light was set in stone 14 billion years ago. Our solar system only formed 4.5 billion years ago. There is no reason why a pattern from the dawn of time should care about the path of a small planet orbiting a middle-aged star in a boring corner of a random galaxy. The odds of this happening by accident are calculated to be less than 0.1%. While that sounds like a small chance for a coincidence, in physics, being 99.9% sure something is wrong usually means you found a huge discovery or you made a huge mistake. When this data first came out, most scientists assumed it was a mistake. They thought the WMAP satellite had a glitch, or that the way we removed the light from our own galaxy was leaving a shadow that looked like a pattern. They decided to wait for better technology to prove it was fake. However, years later, the Planck satellite launched. It had much better vision and higher sensitivity, but the alignment didn't go away. Planck confirmed exactly what WMAP he had seen. The axis was still there, sitting on our solar system's plane, mocking our belief that we live in a random universe. This confirmation changed the question from "is this a mistake" to "what is the universe trying to tell us?" Whenever we find something that breaks the rules of physics, the first reaction is not excitement, it is deep skepticism. In the case of the axis of evil, the first guess was that we weren't looking at the deep universe at all, but rather looking at a reflection of our own backyard. The biggest argument against the axis is called foreground contamination. To see the ancient light, our satellites have to look through everything in between us and the edge of the universe. The biggest wall in our way is our own galaxy, the Milky Way. It is a bright, dusty, messy place. It glows with radiation from fast-moving electrons and warm dust. To make the clean maps you see in textbooks, scientists have to subtract this galactic noise. This is called cleaning the map. If they get the math even slightly wrong, the shape of the Milky Way can leak into the data. Because the Milky Way sits roughly on the same flat plane as our solar system, any leftover signal would naturally look like it aligns with us. This would create a ghost pattern that looks like a cosmic axis, but is really just dust we failed to clean up. Another issue is movement. Our solar system is flying through space at about 370 kilometers per second. This movement makes one side of the sky look hotter and the other cooler. We can subtract this, but it can create a ripple effect called the kinetic quadrupole. If the math isn't perfect, it can twist the data, forcing those patterns to line up artificially. Then there is the problem of the mask. Because the center of our galaxy is too bright to see through, scientists literally put a digital mask over that part of the map, ignoring those pixels. But when you cut a giant hole out of your data, you change the math. Critics argue that the shape of this mask might be squeezing the numbers in a way that creates a fake alignment. Finally, we have the look elsewhere effect. This is a statistical rule that says if you stare at a big enough pile of data for long enough, you will eventually find a pattern that looks impossible. Humans are built to see patterns even when they aren't there. Scientists pointed out that if the axis had aligned with the moon or the galactic North Pole, we would still call it a miracle. Skeptics argue we just cherry-picked this one weird thing out of thousands of possibilities. They suggest the axis of evil isn't real physics, just a cold spot in our understanding of probability. However, as we will see, when the Planck satellite used totally different methods and still found the same axis, the mistake theory became much harder to believe. Scientists really hoped the axis would vanish with better cameras. The WMAP satellite was great, but it had limits. When the European Space Agency launched Planck, it had the best microwave detectors ever built. It was designed to map the ancient light so perfectly that it would settle all these arguments. When the Planck data came out in 2013 and was updated in 2015 and 2018, the results shocked many people. The alignment between the patterns remained. In fact, Planck found the axis across many different frequencies. This made it very hard to say it was just dust. If it was just a mistake in cleaning the map, it should have looked different through Planck's superior instruments. Instead, the signal was rock solid. This moved the debate to a new level. Polarization. Most maps of the early universe show temperature, hot spots and cold spots. But the light is also polarized. As light particles bounced off matter in the early universe, they got twisted in a specific way. The logic is simple. If the axis of evil is a real physical structure, it should show up in the twist of the light, not just the heat. If it only exists in temperature, it's probably a fluke. By 2024 and 2025, advanced studies of this polarization began to come out. The results were frustratingly unclear. Some teams found that the polarization data does show a preferred direction that matches the axis. This implies the cause was there at the very beginning of time. However, other groups argue the signal is too weak to be sure. Because the polarization signal is much fainter than the heat signal, it's easy for noise to hide the truth. This has split the scientific community. One side says the fact that the Axis survived 2 different satellite missions is proof of new physics. The other side insists it's just a statistical ghost that will eventually go away. But here is why this matters. We can no longer blame a bad camera. We can no longer say it's just a smear of dust. Planck proved the Axis is a real feature of our map. This leaves us a tough choice. We either admit our statistics are failing us, or we admit the universe is not the smooth, uniform place we always thought it was. The strongest argument against the Axis was always that it was the only piece of evidence. Skeptics said, if the universe is lopsided, why don't we see it in other things, like galaxies? But recently, that argument has started to collapse. Independent data is starting to show the same bias. The first clue is dark flow. Thousands of galaxy clusters are rushing toward one specific patch of sky, seemingly pulled by something outside our visible universe. Crucially, this massive flow matches the axis of evil perfectly. It gets weirder with quasars. These distant black holes align their spins over billions of light years, following the same cosmic web. It suggests space itself has a grain. When you combine ancient light, dark flow, and quasars, the chance of coincidence drops to near zero. This is a multi-messenger crisis. We haven't just misread the map, we've misunderstood the shape of the container. This connects to the Hubble tension, the fact that our measurements of the universe's growth speed don't match. The axis, direction, and the tension, speed, suggest the same terrifying truth: the universe is lopsided, and we might be living in a special fast lane. This forces us to face the death of the Copernican Principle. If the cosmos aligns with our solar system, our position is an average. We might be sitting in the center of a giant cosmic void. For 400 years, science proved we weren't the center of anything. Now the data suggests otherwise. We need an entirely new kind of physics. We are currently in a period of crisis science. The old rules are broken, and the axis of evil is the signpost pointing toward the new ones. So, how do we explain this alignment without destroying physics? First, there is non-trivial topology. Imagine a donut universe where space loops back on itself. In this shape, light echoes along the shortest path, naturally creating an alignment without requiring Earth to be special. Second is Finsler geometry. Standard physics assumes space is smooth, but this math suggests space has a grain. Light and gravity might move differently depending on the direction, meaning the anomaly isn't a mistake, it is the actual texture of reality. Then comes the holographic projection. This theory suggests the axis isn't a physical line, but an optical illusion caused by our perspective of a 2D boundary, potential proof that we are living in a hologram. Finally, primordial magnetism. A massive magnetic field at the Big Bang could have acted as a guide for the first matter, leaving a permanent north and south scar on the cosmos. All these theories point to one truth: the smooth ball universe of the 20th century is dead. After 20 years of testing, from satellites to black holes, the bias refuses to disappear. As of 2026, the era of the boring universe is over. We face a philosophical mystery. The largest structures in existence line up with us. Whether we live in a donut, a hologram, or a void, the simple rules no longer work. New missions are being built to find the final proof. Until then, the axis remains a scar on our map. We went looking for the random ashes of an explosion and found the compass needle instead. We are no longer watchers of a uniform sea. We are explorers of a cosmos with a secret written across the sky.